The electromagnetic storm raged across Neridia's icy surface, sending cascades of aurora-like lights dancing through the pitch-black sky. Inside Research Station 17, Marcus Chen watched the meteorological readouts with growing concern. The station's shield generators were holding, but just barely. Another power surge, and he'd be spending days repairing the atmospheric analyzers he'd spent months calibrating. Warning: perimeter breach detected. In Sector 4, announced the station's AI in its characteristically flat tone. Marcus frowned. Pulling up the external cameras, nothing should be moving out there, not in a storm this intense. The settlement was 20 kilometers south, and no expeditions were scheduled. The camera feeds showed only swirling snow and darkness, illuminated occasionally by flashes of blue-green electrical discharges. "Enhance Quadrant 7, he instructed. Leaning closer to the screen, their heat signature, faint but unmistakable, moving erratically toward the station's emergency airlock. Not an animal. The movement was too deliberate. Marcus grabbed his thermal jacket and activated the emergency protocols. Partial shield reduction in the south corridor. Prepare decontamination sequence Alpha. The airlock's outer door slid open just as Marcus reached it, revealing a crumpled figure half buried in the accumulated ice crystals. A humanoid form, slender and clearly wounded, crawled forward before collapsing completely. Without hesitation, Marcus pulled the stranger inside, the airlock sealing behind them with a pneumatic hiss. Under the harsh white lights of the decontamination chamber, Marcus could finally see his visitor clearly. His breath caught in his throat. She was unmistakably not human. Her skin shimmered a soft purple like twilight made solid, with delicate patterns flowing beneath the surface like liquid light. Where the storm had torn her garments, he could see wounds leaking a luminescent fluid the color of distant stars. "Can you understand me?" Marcus asked, carefully keeping his distance while the decontamination sequence completed. The alien's eyes fluttered open, iridescent, violet irises surrounded by black sclera. She seemed to struggle to focus on him before speaking in a voice that sounded like wind through crystal. "Oh, sanctuary," she managed. The words surprisingly clear despite an accent that made each syllable sound like music. Marcus nodded, medical training overriding his shock. "I'm going to help you. Can you tell me your name?" "Lyra," she whispered, wincing as she tried to move. "They must not find me." "Who?" Marcus asked, gathering emergency medical supplies as the decontamination cycle completed. But Lyra had already slipped into unconsciousness, her breathing shallow. Marcus gently lifted her. She was surprisingly light, as though her bones were hollow carried her to the medical bay as he laid her on the examination table. Her skin briefly glowed brighter where his hands had touched her. Marcus stepped back, fascinated and concerned in equal measure. The station's scanners were designed for human physiology, but they might at least help identify the extent of her injuries. Outside, the storm intensified, isolating the station completely from the settlement. Communications would be down for days. Whatever mystery had literally fallen into his lap, Marcus would face it alone. He looked down at Lyra's alien face. Peaceful, despite the medical scanner hummed softly as it passed over Lyra's unusual physiology. Marcus studied the readings with a mixture of scientific fascination and genuine concern. Her biological structure was unlike anything in the stations. Database crystalline cellular matrices interwoven with something resembling neural tissue, but far more complex. "Your technology is primitive," Lyra murmured, her eyes fluttering open. Despite her weakened state, there was no fear in her gaze, only curiosity. Marcus smiled despite himself. "Welcome back. And yes, compared to whatever your people have, I imagine it is." He watched as she attempted to sit up, wincing as the movement disturbed a wound along her side. The luminescent fluid had stopped seeping, but the damaged tissue still pulsed with a deeper violet hue. "The Aetheri do not use machines to heal," she explained, her voice gaining strength. "We channel energy from within." She placed her palm over her injury, and Marcus watched in amazement as the damaged tissue began to knit together, glowing softly. Your ascension energy form? He asked, professional curiosity temporarily overriding his caution. Lyra's lips curved into what might have been a smile. Not entirely. We have physical form, as you can see, but we exist in harmony with the quantum resonance fields that permeate the universe. She paused, studying his reaction. You do not seem afraid. Marcus shrugged. I've spent 5 years on this moon studying interstellar phenomena. I've learned to expect the unexpected. He hesitated before asking, You said they must not find you. Who are you running from? The light beneath Lyra's skin dimmed noticeably. My people. The Ethery High Council. She looked away. I violated our most sacred law by seeking contact with other species. We are meant to observe only, never to engage. Yet here you are, Marcus noted. Yes, her voice softened. I believed there was more to learn through connection than observation alone. When I proposed studying human emotional resonance directly, I was declared defective. They would have, reset me, erased my accumulated experiences. She met his gaze directly. I chose exile instead. As the storm continued to rage outside, Marcus brought Lyra food-simple, synthesized protein that she examined with childlike wonder before cautiously tasting. Your sustenance lacks vibrancy, she observed, but it contains unexpected complexities. Marcus laughed. That's the kindest thing anyone's ever said about station rations. For hours they talked, Lyra explaining the collective consciousness of the Ethery. Their ships that traveled through folds in space-time. Their centuries observing emerging civilizations across the galaxy. We see such potential in your species, she said softly. Such capacity for both destruction and creation. It fascinates us. Is that why you came? To study us up close. Lyra's skin briefly pulsed with bands of deeper purple, partially. But I also sought ... freedom. Our society values harmony above all else. Individual exploration is discouraged. She touched the now-healed wound at her side. I never anticipated the council would respond with violence. As night settled over the research station, Marcus showed Lyra to the small guest quarters. She stood at the viewport, watching the storm gradually subside, revealing Neridia's twin moons hanging like pale eyes in the black sky. Your world is beautiful, she whispered. Cold, but beautiful. It's not actually my world, Marcus admitted, standing beside her. Just a temporary home. Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight. Perhaps temporary homes are all any of us truly have. Marcus felt something stir within him, a connection forming despite the vast differences between them. Two lonely souls adrift in the cosmos, finding unexpected sanctuary in each other's company, wounds, and realized his solitary existence on Neridia had just become infinitely more complicated. Steam billowed from the station's shower unit, fogging the small bathroom's mirror. Lyra watched with undisguised fascination as Marcus adjusted the temperature controls. The concept of submerging in heated water for cleansing is unfamiliar to me, she admitted. The Ethery purify through light absorption and energy modulation. Marcus nodded, trying to maintain a professional demeanor despite the intimate nature of the situation. Different biology, different needs. For humans, it's practical, but also ... comforting. Comfort, Lyra repeated the word as if testing its weight. Your species places great value on physical sensations, or embodied creatures, Marcus replied with a small smile. Our physical experiences shape our emotional ones. Lyra's expression grew thoughtful. I would like to understand this aspect of humanity better. She hesitated, her purple skin shimmering with subtle patterns that Marcus had begun to recognize as indicators of her emotional state. Would you ... show me? This ritual of bathing. The request hung in the air between them, innocent yet laden with unspoken implications. Marcus felt heat rise to his face that had nothing to do with the steam filling the room. I can explain the process, he began cautiously. No, Lyra interrupted gently. I wish to experience it as humans do. To truly understand, against his better judgment or perhaps following some deeper wisdom, Marcus nodded. All right. What followed was an exercise in careful trust. Marcus helped Lyra remove the simple station clothing he had provided her, averting his eyes out of ingrained human modesty. He guided her hand under the shower spray, watching as wonder bloomed across her features when the warm water cascaded over her fingers. "It's alive," she gasped. "I can feel its energy. It's just molecules vibrating with heat," Marcus explained. Though he found himself enchanted by her perception, slowly, Lyra stepped fully under the shower, her entire body seeming to come alive with light as the water flowed over her purple skin. Patterns of luminescence followed the water's path, creating rivulets of starlight across her form. Marcus showed her how to use soap, his hands trembling slightly as he demonstrated on his own arm before offering her the bar. The simple act of cleansing became something profound, a lesson in human vulnerability and care. "Your species is so complex," Lyra observed as she mimicked his movements. "You create rituals around basic biological necessities, infusing them with meaning." "I suppose we do," Marcus acknowledged, helping her rinse the soap from her shoulders, trying to ignore the strange warmth that spread through him where their skin made contact. When they finished, Marcus wrapped her in a towel, showing her how to dry herself. Lyra's eyes never left his, filled with a mixture of gratitude and something deeper. Connection forming between species that transcended physical differences. "I feel changed," she whispered, her voice carrying a musical quality that seemed enhanced by the experience. "As though I've absorbed some essential quality of humanity." Marcus smiled. "It's just water and soap." Lyra shook her head, droplets of water catching the light like tiny prisms. "No, it's trust. Vulnerability, freely given." She reached out, hesitantly, touching his cheek with fingers that left a trail of faint luminescence on his skin. "The E3 Council against such openness. They believe it weakens us. And what do you believe?" Marcus asked, his voice low. Lyra's skin pulsed with waves of deeper purple. A reaction he was beginning to understand, signified emotional intensity. "I believe they are wrong," she said simply. That night, as Neridia's harsh winds howled outside the research station, two beings from different worlds sat closer together than before, the barriers between them slowly dissolving like mist under morning sun. 3 days had passed since Lyra's arrival, and the research station had transformed from a place of solitary, scientific pursuit into something else entirely, a sanctuary of shared discovery. Marcus found himself watching Lyra as she explored his small library of physical books, her fingers trailing over the pages with reverence. "These contain emotional imprints," she observed, looking up at him with wonder. "I can sense the residual energy of those who created them, who read them before you." Marcus smiled, leaning against the doorframe. "Most humans would just see paper and ink, and they miss the most beautiful part." Lyra carefully returned the volume of poetry to its place. As she did, Marcus noticed something extraordinary. Her skin was displaying new patterns, intricate swirls that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her movements. The soft purple had developed subtle variations, deeper violet near her heart, lighter lavender along her arms. "Your skin," he said, stepping closer. "It's changing." Lyra looked down at herself, then back to him with an expression that might have been embarrassment. "Yes, it is. Responding to proximity, to connection. Is that normal for your species?" Marcus asked, scientific curiosity mingling with something more personal. She hesitated before answering. "No, the E3 maintain emotional distance, even from each other. Our energy patterns remain stable, controlled." Her voice softened. "This kind of resonance is considered ... inappropriate. Dangerous." "Dangerous how?" Marcus moved closer still, drawn by the hypnotic patterns flowing beneath her skin. "We are taught that deep emotional connections can destabilize our energy matrix," she explained, "that they lead to unpredictable outcomes." Marcus was close enough now that he could feel a subtle warmth radiating from her, like standing near a banked fire. "And do you believe that?" Lyra's eyes met his, iridescent violet holding steady. "I'm beginning to question many things I was taught." With deliberate slowness, she reached out, placing her palm against his chest, directly over his heart. The effect was immediate and stunning. Where they touched, her skin illuminated brilliantly, the light spreading outward in concentric rings that transformed her entire body into a canvas of living light. Marcus gasped, feeling a curious sensation, not unpleasant, but intense, as though something was flowing between them. "What's happening?" he whispered, transfixed. "Energy transfer," Lyra breathed, equally amazed. "But not as I was warned. It's not depleting either of us. It's amplifying." Her eyes widened. "This is why contact is forbidden. Not because it harms, but because it transforms. It creates something new." Tentatively, Marcus raised his hand to her face, cradling her cheek. The patterns beneath her skin responded instantly, flowing toward his touch like water, seeking its level. Her eyes drifted closed, an expression of profound peace settling over her features. "Your emotions," she murmured. "They're beautiful, complex. Can you feel what I feel?" Marcus asked, suddenly self-conscious about the growing affection he harbored for this extraordinary being. Lyra's eyes opened, luminous with understanding. "Not precisely. But I sense the ... resonance, the harmony." A smile transformed her face. "Among my people. This would be called soul binding, a mythical connection considered impossible between different species." Outside, Neridia's harsh landscape was bathed in the glow of dawn, the first rays of the distant sun transforming the ice fields into glittering diamond. Inside, two beings from worlds separated by vast gulfs of space and biology stood connected by something equally miraculous, understanding that transcended difference. Marcus leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. When their lips met, the room filled with soft purple light, emanating from Lyra in waves that seemed to pulse in time with their shared heartbeats. It was gentle, explorative, a first tentative step across a boundary neither had imagined crossing. When they parted, Lyra's skin continued to shimmer with patterns more complex and beautiful than any Marcus had seen before. "I understand now," she whispered, her voice containing harmonics that stirred something profound within him. "Why the Council fears this? Not because it diminishes us, but because it makes us more than we were designed to be." Marcus took her hands in his, marveling at how right it felt despite everything that should have made it impossible. Sometimes the most important discoveries are the ones we never set out to make. The station's alarms chose that moment to shatter their reverie, proximity alerts blaring with sudden urgency. Marcus rushed to the console, Lyra close behind him, her light dimming with concern on the screen. A vessel like nothing Marcus had ever seen approached Neridia's atmosphere, sleek, crystalline, pulsing with the same energy that flowed beneath Lyra's skin. "At the Council," she breathed, fear threading through her voice. "They've found me." The ethery vessel hung in Neridia's sky like a shard of crystal, fracting the morning light into prismatic beams that cut through the atmosphere. Marcus stared at the surveillance feed, calculating options that dwindled with each passing moment. "They will disable your technology first," Lyra said quietly, her luminescence dimmed to a faint glow. "Then they will extract me." "Can they force you to return?" Marcus asked, already moving to the communications array, attempting to contact the settlement 20 kilometers south. The system remained dead, already compromised. "They consider me property of the collective," she replied, a tremor in her musical voice. "A malfunctioning unit to be reset or repurposed." Marcus turned to her, decision crystallizing. "Then we need to show them you're not malfunctioning. That what's happening between us isn't a glitch and you're programming its evolution." Before Lyra could respond, the station's lights flickered and died, emergency power activating seconds later with a low hum. Outside, a beam of concentrated energy connected the ethery vessel to the ground 50 meters from the research station. "They're coming," Lyra whispered, her skin pulsing with rapid, discordant patterns that betrayed her fear. Marcus took her hands in his, feeling the now familiar energy exchange between them. "Trust me," he said simply. Together, they moved to the station's airlock. Marcus donned his thermal suit, offering Lyra his spare. She smiled sadly at the gesture. "My people do not suffer from environmental extremes as yours do," she explained, "though I appreciate the concern behind the offer." The outer door opened onto Neridia's icy landscape. 3 figures approached, tall, slender beings with skin that made Lyra seem dull by comparison. They moved with perfect coordination, their steps leaving no impression in the snow. "Representatives of the High Council," Lyra murmured, unconsciously moving closer to Marcus. "Sent to reclaim abhorrent units." The leading figure halted several meters away, its voice carrying across the distance, without seeming to travel through air. "Lyrenity," it intoned, the words somehow both melodious and devoid of emotion. "Your unauthorized exploration concludes. Return for reintegration." Marcus stepped forward, placing himself slightly ahead of Lyra. "She has sanctuary here," he called out. "By her choice." The 3 E3 regarded him with identical expressions of detached curiosity. "Human entity," the leader responded. "This matter does not concern your species. The aberrant unit requires correction." "She's not a unit," Marcus countered. "She's a person making her own choices." Lyra moved to stand beside him. As she did, her skin began to illuminate, not with the fear patterns of moments before, but with the complex, harmonious configurations that appeared when she and Marcus connected. She reached out, taking his hand in hers. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Where their skin touched, light blossomed, not just the purple of Lyra's natural luminescence, but a new color entirely, one that seemed to exist at the boundary between human perception and something beyond. The light expanded outward, enveloping them both in a cocoon of radiance. The E3 representatives stepped backward in unison, communicating in rapid pulses of light between themselves. "Impossible integration," one said, its voice carrying unmistakable alarm. "Unprecedented energy pattern," another observed. The leader studied them intently. "Explain this phenomenon," it demanded. Lyra's voice, when she spoke, carried new harmonics deeper, more resonant. "What you witness is what the ancient texts described as convergent evolution. 2 different evolutionary paths, finding unexpected harmony." "The texts are metaphorical constructs," the leader dismissed. "Not literal possibilities. Yet here we stand," Lyra countered, the light between her and Marcus intensifying. "Neither diminished by connection, but amplified. The very thing the Council has feared, that contact leads not to corruption, but to transformation." For several long moments, the E3 representatives remained motionless, light passing between them in patterns too complex for Marcus to interpret. Finally, the leader spoke again. "The Council must evaluate this unexpected development. Your extraction is temporarily suspended pending further analysis." "Not suspended," Marcus interjected firmly. "Cancelled. Lyra stays of her own free will, or leaves the same way." The leader tilted its head, regarding Marcus with what might have been newfound respect. "Human entity offers an unfamiliar variable to established equations," it acknowledged. "We will observe." That enigmatic statement, the 3 E3 turned in perfect synchrony and moved back toward their vessel. Before boarding, the leader paused, looking back at Lyra. "Your choice represents unprecedented divergence," it said, its tone impossible to interpret. "The consequences remain to be calculated." As the crystalline ship ascended into Neridia's atmosphere, Marcus turned to Lyra, whose luminescence had settled into a steady, serene glow. "Do you think they'll return?" he asked. Lyra considered the question, her eyes tracking the departing vessel. "They will watch. They will learn. Perhaps, in time, they will understand." She looked down at their still-joined hands, where the remarkable light continued to pulse between them. "What we have discovered here is too significant to dismiss." "And what exactly have we discovered?" Marcus asked softly. Lyra's free hand rose to touch his face, leaving trails of light against his skin. "That the universe's greatest constant isn't physics or mathematics or even energy." Her eyes, violet and infinite, met his. "It's connection. The ability of different forms of life to find harmony despite everything that should make it impossible." As Neridia's twin moons rose over the horizon, casting their pale light across the ice fields. Marcus and Lyra stood at the threshold between their worlds, no longer entirely separate, no longer complete strangers. Whatever challenges awaited them, whatever observers might come to study their unprecedented bond, They would face it together, proof that even across the vast divides of space and biology, understanding was possible. And in a universe of infinite darkness, that simple truth shone brighter than any star.